Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Wizards Coffee Break. This is a very special segment here. Thank you for joining us for Nerds Debate, or really Discuss, featuring myself, the real-life fake wizard, but also featuring longtime friend of mine, very, very dear ally and friend, Matt TheStoryTimeGuy. Matt, how we doing, dude? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Nice hat.
Thank you. Oh, right here's the camera. Hello. Thank you. It's my witch's hat, not a wizard's hat, but because witches are better. And I don't know if this is a lesbian witch hat. I haven't asked it, but I have a feeling it kind of feels like a lesbian witch's hat.
Well, we are covering the Acolyte, so lesbian space witches seems to be on brand.
Lesbian space witches are things that I love. I love lesbian space witches. I feel like all witches are lesbians. Find me a witch that isn't a lesbian, is what I would argue.
You make a good point. I don't know if I could.
I feel like we're
then
too
again,
with my glass. I'm gonna take my glass off because I feel like we're too. It feels like I'm looking in a freaking mirror here. Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying. I mean, have you seen Hogwarts? Come on.
Are they all lesbians? Is that what we're finding out tonight?
All lesbians. All of them. All of them are lesbians. You're gonna tell me McGonagall? Actually, McGonagall has a really sad story about how her husband died. So, that's.
I clearly haven't read into it very far enough.
Oh, dude, yeah, her husband was like this, like super cool dude. He gets like killed by this like dangerous plant thing, and like he almost got murdered. I think she was married the first time, and he got killed by like a dragon or Voldemort or something. And then like they're her second husband. It is crazy. She's got a really sad backstory. They don't tell you in the books. J.K. Rowling wrote like an anthology series, and it's in there. It's really sad. Also, werewolves are a metaphor for AIDS, and she like really does it down.
So starting off with Harry Potter, there was recent news that we're getting a Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, let's just we already started talking about that. Harry Potter is kicking off new series.
Yeah, so like a part of me, I read the book series. I love the book series, love the movies, but it's like the movies are their own thing and the books are their own thing. They're completely different things, and I love that we actually have like Hogwarts Legacy to kind of like see as Hogwarts as it could have been in the movies, where it's more cohesive. It's not like, hey, like this thing will like the moving staircases is one of the biggest controversies in those movies of like, oh, some staircases just move and like, oh, kids just gonna fall to their death. That's not how it is in the book. They don't do that in the book. They're not like that. So like for the video games, like actually this is how it should work. It's cool, and I hope they do that. I hope she sticks to her books, but knowing J.K. Rowling the way everyone knows her, she's gonna change everything. So
that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, she's not gonna, like, people are like, oh well, that means she's just gonna take control of her IP. Yeah, we've seen this whole thing. I feel like I'm taking crazy. We've seen this whole thing before with George Lucas. She makes something original, Harry Potter original series, episodes 1, 4, 5, 6, and then they go, oh, that was good. Here, you have the keys to the kingdom. Do whatever you want with no oversight. And then we got the prequels, and then we got Fantastic Beasts, which Fantastic Beasts are prequels. And like people complaining, maybe it's because I'm a Harry Potter fan, but like the whole like Ki-Adi-Mundi thing, J.K. Rowling does something way worse, where she puts McGonagall in Fantastic Beasts.
I know.
Like that's not even like, you can argue the Ki-Adi-Mundi, but like, oh well, the cards and stuff, but like McGonagall's 100% not even supposed to be born yet. Like we know we have good hard timelines of these things, and she's like, yes, I don't give a damn.
I'm 100% with you. The retconning of McGonagall, but also, what about everything with the snake? It felt so out of place.
There's so much. I'm telling you, there's so many things that like she just Nagini's. For those of you that don't know, in the original series, Nagini was the evil villain's pet snake. It was just a giant freaking anaconda snake. And
just a snake.
Like, it was just a snake, just an evil snake. And I wouldn't say evil, kind of evil. It was just a snake, and he loved that snake. And he's like 70 years old. And then in the prequels, they're like, but that snake is actually an Asian woman who was
a species of people that eventually she'll be cursed and be permanently turned into the snake.
And if you're thinking like, oh, so we're going to build up to Voldemort? No, she is written out of the movie franchise.
Yep.
She's there for one movie. It gets written
here today, gone tomorrow.
That's what when like Star Wars fans complain, I'm like, man, I like, as someone who loves a lot of franchises and everything, like, to me, I'm like, continuity errors and shit, if it doesn't phase me. Like literally, like Universal Monsters, none of those movies gave a damn about the other movies. All the characters die. Dracula dies in his first movie, and then he randomly appears like 10 years later in a team-up movie, and then he gets killed. He's a different actor, because that actor, Bela Lugosi, was playing a different Universal monster. So they kill him, and then he's gone again. And it's like, what the Frankenstein dies at the end of every single movie, and they're like, but he didn't. Well, he's not going to stay dead though. So for me, like, that's the kind of like background I'm coming from. Like, continuity errors and shit happen all the time, and so many other franchises have been so like disregardful of it outright that, like, for this Ki-Adi-Mundi thing, I'm like, they knew shit, and they were like, look, who's gonna care about Ki-Adi-Mundi? Apparently everyone.
The prequel fans will lose their shit.
Yeah, and it's crazy because this show is for them. The Acolyte is for them. There's so many references and like quotes from the original prequel series that I'm like, oh damn, like I hate the prequels, but man, like this show is really going out of its way to say like, hey, prequel fans, this for you. And the audience, the prequel fans, is like, no, oh, why? And you're like, all right, cool. I hope Star Wars listens and realizes that y'all don't want it anymore and they stop giving you stuff, because I'm ready for sequel era stuff.
All right. Well, so what I want to do is, because I want to talk about Universal Monster stuff later on. I want to get into that because I have some questions I know you're going to have the best insight for. I also want to talk Alien, Romulus, and Nosferatu.
Yes.
We have some time for that too. But let's just get right into Star Wars, talking about the Acolyte. So what I want to kind of begin with is ask, firstly, where are you as far as being a fan in the current Star Wars meta? What are your initial thoughts on the current Disney Star Wars meta?
So I don't like the prequels. I've been pretty solidly loving most of what Disney has done. Like, so to give you a background of, like, I started watching Star Wars when I was maybe a little puppy of 4 or 5, right? And I would watch the original trilogy on VHS when they had the little, remember the VHS sets with like Darth Vader's face, Yoda's face, and the Storm. So that's what I did. I watched the VHS. Me and my friend watched them religiously. Star Wars movies, Saving Private Ryan, Indiana Jones trilogy. We watched those on VHS over and over, and apparently sometimes Waterworld. We love those movies. And then the prequels came out, and I remember saying as a little kid going, the prequels are better than anything the original trilogy ever did. Original trilogy is garbage. Prequel trilogy, best of all time. This is the greatest thing ever. And then as I got older, I'm like watching it and going, man, like, this story sucks. This shit sucks. Like, there's cool things in it, and I stand by. If you can't find a single thing that you enjoy in every single movie 1 through 9, I don't think you actually give a shit about Star Wars, because there's something even visually cool, music, and you know this, the music is so damn good. And we got to talk about the music in this one, because once again, they're referencing other movies and fans just don't get, whatever. So yeah, so I would say I'm not a diehard Disney fan. I'm also not a diehard Lucas fan. I thought like I said, the prequels suck. I still stand by that. I think they're the Duel of the Fates is one of the best things Star Wars ever done. Pod racing, super cool. After that, you could blow up the prequels for all I give a damn. I could never watch them or get a reference, and I would never care and never miss them. Like the original trilogy, Episode 6 is all right. It's all right. Episode 7 is my favorite. And Episode 8 I don't like. I rate Episode 8 with like, even though I like it, I rate it with like the prequels. I think the way that Rian Johnson treated the story that J.J. Abrams was telling, he spit on it and was like, yeah, I don't care about your damn story. Don't care about
this is mine now.
Yeah, this is mine. I'll do whatever the hell I want. I want to tell my story. And then J.J. Abrams in Episode 9 had to turn around. So that's why I like have forgiveness to Episode 9, because he's like, damn it, I got to fix all the shit you did, man. So yeah, I don't, and you could argue whose fault is that? Because like, it's weird that people would say like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy this. I'm like, aren't you the same people that say that you want studios to stay out of the business of the directors and the writers and let the directors and writers do whatever they want to do? Like, studios need to stop interfering. And that's what Star Wars did with Episode 8. And then they turn around and they're like, Kathleen Kennedy ruined. Like, she gave him full control. That's what everyone said. Give him full control. And she did. And that was a bad decision.
And the fandom has been splintered ever since. Yeah,
exactly. Because even sequel fans, you have your prequel diehards, you have your OTs, you have your sequel fans, and then you have your sequel fans who like 7 and 9. Great. 8 can eat my ass. And then you have those that are like episode 8 is the best one of all the movies. It's the greatest of all time. And they don't like 7 and 9. So yeah. And I haven't seen all of Ahsoka. Andor is the greatest thing that Star Wars has ever done. Bar none. It's not even close. Andor is the greatest anything.
That's what I hear.
It's the best. It's story wise. There's no fan service. It's just damn good storytelling told with amazing acting. And I love Mandalorian. I think Mandalorian's sick. I think it spoiled people though. Because like in season 3, we get a Mandalorian versus Mandalorian epic Empire Mandos versus OG Mandos fighting to the death. Grogu's in a mecha suit, like all this sick shit, dude. And there's dark sabers and stuff. And like people are like, And we got Luke showing up in season 2 with the Death Troopers, who, by the way, practical effects on those Death Troopers. Those were all actual actors. None of that was CGI. They actually had actors who learned how to do robots. And super sick. One of the greatest hallway fight scenes ever, which is crazy because that bar is high. Strangely, hallway fight scenes, super high bar for that. And even outside of Star Wars. And yet we got an amazing one. So yeah, like I like Star Wars. And I would say that the High Republic, the Acolyte, I don't hate it. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever made. I think that new fight scene was one of the best we've ever had. But like, to me, I don't understand the hate for it, especially from prequel fans who like, this is for them. She made this with so much love for prequel fans. And they were like, but you're a lesbian. And they're like, stop pushing agendas. And I'm like, but so like, correct me if I'm wrong. The lesbian witches don't even kiss.
No, there is a single embrace of the cheek, and that is, I believe, the only positive identifier that they are lesbian space witches.
Yeah. And then, and it's also, to me, it's like, you're trying to, I don't know where the thumbs up came from. You're trying to tell me that, like, there's this group of witches, exclusively women, which I don't know if that's an agenda pushing, but to me, it's literally witches. Because I guess if that's an agenda, so is the Night Sisters. This like exclusively female coven of witches, and 2 of them happen to like each other enough to want to touch each other. Oh, like that's really that's where we're getting upset. That's diversity somehow. Like I just don't see how, like, if that's pushing an agenda, then where are we like putting this bar of, okay, so if the show or movie is 90% of one gender and race, is that pushing an agenda? Because if it is, then Star Wars 1 through almost 9 are all pushing an agenda, you know?
I didn't really have a problem with the space witches being there. I've been pretty open about, I think that they're fine. It's another culture.
Yeah.
I think, that being said, you know, we've seen other cultures.
Yeah.
We've seen other witches. The thread being another name for the Force, I think, is okay, because it's just how another culture would define the Force. So that in and of itself is inconsequential. I think, though, that being said, I think they need to be identified as dark side Force users. So specifically Darksiders.
Yeah, I would say this, and I think they are. I think that, like, there's a line in there where she's like, those damn, like, she refers to Jedi as like those like depraved monks or whatever, and I'm like, right, that's called irony, audience. Pick on it. Like, I genuinely think they're not good. I don't think anyone can watch that and be like, those witches are good and the Jedi are bad. Them talking shit about the Jedi is no different than the Sith talking shit about the Jedi. And like, what bothers me is that, like, some people are like, and I don't know who to blame for this, but let's, like, the Kool-Aid, eating the food of like, oh yeah, Jedi are bad. The Jedi are good. Let's be abundantly clear. Even at their worst, they are the best thing in the universe.
That is my biggest fear, is that they are going to do something that the Jedi are the aggressors in the situation with the witches. If the Jedi are the aggressors, throw Star Wars out, start it over.
No,
again.
But here's
they can't be the aggressors here.
So I think what's going to happen is that either one of them is going to get a vision, or one of them is going to be watching what's going on. Like, they're going to be watching to make sure nothing doesn't happen, and they're going to see the fire. They're going to try to get involved, and that's when the witches are like, step the fuck off. Or it could be as simple as they think the Jedi started the fire. miscommunications happen all the time, and I don't want to hear anyone say like, "Oh, literally, that's how friendly fire is what kills soldiers the most in war."
Right.
Literally, it's friendly fire kills more people than anything else. So even if it's over a miscommunication, I can understand that. I don't think the Jedi are going to be like, "Hey, we're taking her, screw off. We're going to kill everyone in her way." I don't think they're going to do that. I think that because you have to remember, the witches are not good people. They're doing rituals that they shouldn't on children that they magically created, right?
Right. And it's implied that they're using the dark side.
Yes. Or some form of gray. So this is the thing. If we're going to address that the dark side is twisting the force or the thread in a way that it shouldn't, then yes, they're dark side users. And so I don't think they would view it that way. But hindsight and how would the Jedi view it that way is, yeah, they're using the dark side. If you're twisting, because like the force is good. This whole gray Jedi nonsense is stupid.
That's my fear. It seems to be making a gray Jedi analogy. And also, if you listen to the interviews that they say, well, what kind, would you use the light side or the dark side? Oh, I would be a gray Jedi. It's like, well, wait a second. Firstly, they don't know Star Wars enough to know that. So where did that come from? Okay, like, I mean, look, if you got the one guy saying that Anakin blew up the Death Star, right?
But
they know just enough to carry a line. I know that's fine. Yeah. But I don't expect actors to know everything like psycho lore people, right?
Yeah.
I expect them to know just enough. So where did they get the term gray Jedi from? Why would they say that unless, and my fear is that this show is going to assert that it is some kind of gray level there in the Force, which goes against everything Star Wars stands for.
I don't think they are. I think so. Like, this is my opinion on it because I'm going to use a perfect example for this: the Beauty and the Beast movie, the live action. I don't know how many times Emma Watson ran up and down those interview circles and was like, "This is for feminism. This is for women. I told them I'm not wearing heels. I'm gonna wear slippers, and she's not just a dandy princess. She's an inventor and she's brilliant." And she did all this shit before the movie came out. And then none of that was true in the movie. Like, she has the one little scene where she helps her father with that. She's not like building mechas. She's not building it was how the actress who has been in this character talking about backstory stuff that we would never see. So to me, I view that as like, these are the actors getting excited over this. This is the actors projecting how they feel, and actors are allowed to project that. Just like how Harrison Ford doesn't give a shit about Star Wars. Same with Alan McGuinness. They don't give a shit about Star Wars, So I think
Mark Hamill too at this point.
Yeah, I would rather have the actors be overly excited than not give a shit at all. Because I think, to me, it's, do the actors care enough about these characters that they're going to theory craft? Like, we're all nerds, right? Like, I can tell you, I'm friends with a few big actors, and they're fucking nerds, and they do, and we send each other dumb memes, and we have these discussions where it's like, oh, like, who would win in a fight? Who would do this? And we have our opinions about these things. And nowadays, in the, Disney or Star Wars is like, hey, just say whatever you want, When they should have probably been like, hey, the Star Wars fandom is a little insane. Don't say, it's better to say too less than to say too much. They should have vetted them on that. They didn't. I agree. And that's on them. But we see this. Look at Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy's like, hey, everyone, Shrek 5, and there's a donkey movie coming out too. And they're like, we didn't announce that yet, Eddie. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? Like, we didn't announce that yet. What are you saying? And he was like,
donkey movie's new. Shrek 5 was rumored for a while.
They're already.
But that's wild.
I won't say too much. All I'm going to say is they're already done filming it. Yeah. So it's, yeah, I have too many contacts and people watch, but all I'm saying is, yeah, like, I can tell you that I'm very excited for it. I've known about this for a while, and Eddie should have shut his damn mouth. But anyways, that's what I'm saying. Like, actors get excited. Look how many times Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo spoil things, and Don Cheadle's like, Mark, shut up, dude. Like, shut your mouth. Tom Holland always run his mouth, and Benedict's like, to interrupt. Shut up, Tom. Like, it's the actors get excited. They're human as everyone else. So to me, I think using the actors' interviews is silly as it's a reason to hate the show, because that's just, they're actors. They're not the writers of the show. They don't have any sway over what their characters say. Like, and sometimes people say, like, yeah, some actors do, like Jen Ortega did with Wednesday. And then she fought him. She's like, "No, I'm not doing this again. You guys write shitty scripts. I'm going to take over for season 2." These kind of actors at this low level, none of them had any control over what their characters were saying. So this is just them projecting. So any one of them saying anything silly, I'm just like, it's just an actor. They're just people. And not to be mean, a lot of actors are really stupid. So like,
they are. Nothing surprising. Their job is to come in and act. I believe it's the job of the writers to write well, and the actors just come in and act.
Yeah.
Come in and just play your part. Do it as best as you can. Hype it up with the marketing. Yeah. Sell some tickets.
Yeah. And like I said, it's marketing's fault for not handling this situation better. Which I will say, once the shows come out, I feel like they've handled marketing better for it. Like Manny Jacinto coming out and they had an interview prepped and all this stuff. I'm like, that's good. That's how you handle marketing. He's not ranting. They say very specific things. When the Jedi asked, "So what happened to the Wookiee?" What his answer be? He got murdered. Right?
This is a really good question. When the Jedi asked Sol what happened to the Wookiee, what would his answer be? We didn't see Sol go and check on Kelnaka. So he would only be reporting on an assumption.
I'm gonna cut that right now because he knows he's dead. Because if you watch the episode carefully, when Kanaka dies, when she discovers Kanaka, when May discovers that Kanaka's dead, they cut back to Sol, who has that. He gets this look on his face where he's like, "Shit, something's wrong." He's force sensitive enough that he knew Kanaka died. And also, just off assumptions, we know that May was already there. They got there after May. May was in Kelnaka's building. And if Kelnaka didn't make a noise, it's easy to assume that Kelnaka's dead. He doesn't need it's very simple to assume that.
So then furthering that, all right, and actually I want to set this up. Let's properly set this up. I scrutinize everything Disney Star Wars does. I want to love it. Often I think they make a lot of sloppy mistakes. So I come at the Acolyte where I'm like, I want to love you. Please be good. And then I watch it and I'm like, there are glaring errors here and it's not even just like, oh, well, you're too old for it. It's for kids. It's like, no. Just from a storytelling perspective, you missed some things that you could have been better at. So I'm going to ask some questions because I genuinely want to know what your insight would be on some of these things. That being a very good one of them. If Master Sol is wise enough to be able to sense that Kelnaka's dead, and if the stranger is wise enough to know that by taking his helmet off, which we'll get into more in a second, if taking his helmet off, Sol can read his mind, does Sol know he's traveling with May right now after the parent trap?
I'm going to argue Star Wars Episode 3, Yoda didn't realize that Palpatine was in their midst. And you could argue, and I'm going to argue it, the greatest Dark Master, greatest user of the dark side in the history of Star Wars. Don't give me none of nothing else. Palpatine was the greatest dark side user in history. The strongest. Dude took out multiple Jedi Masters with ease. Nearly took out the greatest Jedi fighter probably in the history of the Jedi Council, Mace Windu. Nearly took him out. And Yoda never knew that he had a lightsaber literally up his sleeve the whole time. Couldn't sense the kyber crystals, couldn't sense the lightsaber, couldn't sense that someone with such insane power. Count Dooku too didn't sense that. Yeah. He didn't realize, even with a vision of Anakin, he refused to acknowledge that this was happening, and he realized it too late. So I would argue that dark side, and I still stand by this, dark side users, if you take a level 5 dark side user, a Sith, and a level 5 Jedi, the level 5 Sith is stronger in every way to a Jedi, and that's the point. The dark side makes you stronger. That's why you give into the hate. So I would say for those going like, well, how do you, because he's a Sith user. He can fly, which even as strong as Master Sol is, which, let's be clear, probably the greatest hand-to-hand fighter without a lightsaber in Jedi history.
He's got the Jedi foo.
Yeah, he was absolutely killing it. Even him, with how strong he is, cannot fly, cannot force push to that degree, cannot get into someone's mind. Well, maybe he could get into someone's mind that easy, which is something that the stranger probably knew, hence the Cortorsis. So I would say, yeah, the reason for that is Sith notoriously are good at hiding. That's kind of their bread and butter.
So is May a Sith by that logic?
I would argue no, because when do we ever see her use Sith abilities?
The only thing I think we see her see is we see her do is force push.
Correct.
And it's in the end of the last episode.
She force pushes in the first episode. She force pushes against the fight with Master. She force pushes really well, and she does it a lot. But that's not a Sith ability. And so I would argue that, and even with how everything ends, and even with her twist and everything, I don't think she's evil. I think that she is misguided. I think that she is lost, but I don't think she's evil. And I think that's how I think they're going to push with that. So in that capacity, I don't think that Soul would sense her, because once again, Stranger is protecting her. He's shrouding her, which he absolutely could do.
But if May is a killer and she's killed people,
so have Jedi.
Yes, but she's going around assassinating people for the Sith.
Give me one sec. Give me one
All right. He is going to take a break. We'll be right back with Matt. So something I want to preface as we're talking about this whole Star Wars thing is that it's incredibly divisive. A lot of people are divided on what to like, what to like, and what to not like. And so something that I like to say, make sure we preface on this show, is that I hope you like The Acolyte. I hope you find something worthwhile to like in it. I go into these things hoping to like them, and we have Matt on here who does. And so I'm very thankful that we were able to talk through this, because I have tremendous amount of issues. I don't expect us to come to resolutions on all of them. In fact, I expect to like some of the answers. I'm searching for answers on a lot of these discussion points with The Acolyte. So this is a very good place to be. All right, he's back.
Yes.
And we can continue. So the show begins with May going around assassinating people. She stabs Indara in the heart and then manipulates somebody else into unaliving themselves. Is she not a villain?
Being a villain is okay. So like to this, and this is something that the showrunner has said. She is the hero of her own story. She doesn't view what she's doing as a villainess, and in fact, we know that as a fact because she refused to kill people, the Jedi, as unarmed. She could easily assassinate those Jedi. Well, not easily, but she could assassinate those Jedi. She chooses not to. What's the first thing she does? Pick up your weapon and fight me. That's not something a Sith does. Look at Kimir, the Stranger. He doesn't do that. He's not like, pick up your weapon and fight me, because he's evil. May doesn't do that. She demands a fair fight. And then when shit goes down, she's like, oh, wait, I can't do a fair fight, because the Jedi Master, she resorts to underhanded tactics, because that's what she was taught by an evil dude. So I'm not going to say she's not a villain. She absolutely is a villain. But to say she's evil, I don't think she's more far gone than like Anakin killing children twice. Far gone. And
irredeemable.
And yet to Luke, he was redeemed. So, and I would argue to George Lucas, he probably thought he was redeemed, which I think all of us would agree. Nope, you didn't.
No, I think I've talked about that in a couple of videos now. It's like, no, we respect Darth Vader, and we like Darth Vader, and we like Anakin, but we don't ever really forgive them. And that's why I like how they've taken writing Leia lately from the perspective of, she's able to understand that this was her father, but never forgive him for the atrocities he's committed. Like, we're supposed to look at that and be like, Vader is a badass and he's cool and I like him, but also not a role model.
So to that, and that point is someone is someone irredeemable? I would say May killed that Jedi Master at the beginning of the show. She killed Torben. She didn't kill Kanaka, but she planned to, right? She's killed two people. Two people that, why balloons? She killed two people who may or may not have had it coming. Torben absolutely was okay with it. He's like, yeah, I goofed up. I'm cool with this. Look, it's not whether you think he deserved that. It's whether he thinks he deserved that. And if he is in a 10-year coma, meditative coma, he clearly has guilt over what he did.
Yeah, but do guilty people should they be unaliving themselves? Is that the message that this show is trying to project? That's my concern. Is I think Torben unaliving himself is actually atrocious storytelling.
So I would say this: if he was putting himself in a 10-year coma, which he did, if he has that much guilt, and he wakes from this coma to see the person who he holds that guilt over. It's not a random person. It's not a random dude going, hey, kill yourself. This is May going, I will forgive you for the atrocities you committed if you take this act right now. If you show to me that you want penance for what you did to me, this is how you get that. And he was like, yeah, no, fair point. Because we see in things like, I don't, if you watch House of Dragons.
I don't. I won't be watching it. It's okay.
Okay.
Spoilers for House of Dragons ahead, in case you do watch it.
One of the dudes falls on his sword. He does something that he views irredeemable. I would argue no one else does. But then he falls on his sword because he viewed that as his honor was gone. So he puts the sword on the ground and then just chucks himself on it, which we know was a real thing that many knights did. They put their sword on the ground and they said, see ya, and they fell on it, you know? And that's not just the Japanese, that's with England, that's with the Europeans. We see it everywhere, right? So to me, I'm like, if he was that guilty, and remember, he was a Padawan when whatever happened. And we're gonna see. Other people are like, we're gonna see. We see it in the trailer.
Oh no, we see it in the trailers. Yeah. Kalnaka tears him apart.
Yeah, so we're gonna see that Torben does something, you know. So pick it up. Sorry, my son just dropped it.
That's all right.
Peter, just pick it up. The dogs are trying to get it. He's like pushing the dogs away. Just pick up the food, dude. Peter, just pick up the food. Padfoot, come here. Gurgi, come here.
Gurgi
and Padfoot.
Gurgi and Padfoot.
If you
Gurgi
guys
from
are
the Black Cauldron.
True nerds. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're true nerds, you'll know those names.
All right.
Yeah,
so with that in mind, then, if he's that guilty, and as a knight, that's him absolving himself of those sins genuinely, if it's by that logic, then the Jedi would have had to have done something truly awful, would they not have?
I would say that what I think they're going to do is not have all of those 4 Jedi do something awful, but I think Torben being a Padawan and because remember, we already saw that he was easily influenced. I think he's going to do something that he regrets, because truthfully, like if they were going to have it be like, the way I see all of this is that one of the witches is going to do something to one of the Jedi, probably Torben. Torben's going to panic and probably kill someone. The witches then retaliate, and that's how that whole battle starts. Is that Torben probably was the stupid idiot who did so. It's like this the scene in the Two Towers from Lord of the Rings where that guy fires an arrow prematurely and the war kicks off. I think this will be one of those things where I think Torben, being a small child, and as we say, and I love the Jedi, and I will stand by the Jedi Order being a very important, very lawful, good system.
Right.
As the stranger said, when they killed Jackie, he's like, you killed Jackie, and stranger's like, you brought her. What are you mad at me for? Which, once again, that's deflective stuff. He doesn't have a point there. He has a little bit of a point, but that's not justification for him murdering a child. Like, people are like, yeah, the Jedi are awful. He's the murderer. He's the bad guy.
Right. He's still a Sith. He's still a killer. He's a self-identified Sith. He's not a good guy.
Yeah. So I've seen people being like, yeah, exactly. That's what the Jedi are bad. No, you're misunderstanding that scene. That's not the point they're making. He's justifying his evil ways by deflecting, because he knows what the Jedi do, so he knows what to say. And that's what like freaks me out, was like, not freaks me out, but like that's what bothers me about certain fans. They're like, yeah, the villain. Nope. The stranger knows the weaknesses of the Jedi, and he's trying to point them out to justify his own really evil ways. So just be aware.
All right, so let's talk some more about the stranger, because there's one very clear point in the story that I have my own defense to, but other people can't seem to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Jackie fighting the stranger. Okay. Yeah. At the beginning of the episode, the stranger mows down a whole bunch of Jedi Knights like they're nothing. Then later on in the episode, Jackie and the stranger fight, and Jackie kicks ass for a long time. Like, she's got him on the ropes for a while. If Jackie's a Padawan,
I would argue she doesn't have him on the ropes because she never even gets a good hit in. And
he was in defense and she was on offense.
Well, remember,
for good chunks of it.
Their main battle right there, he was trying to kill May. He was literally like, get out of my way, I'm trying to kill May. She was the reason she was getting the upper hand is because his focus was on May. And as we see, he knows what he's doing.
That's an interesting description. That changes the whole dynamic of what that fight represents just by explaining that.
She's in his way. It's like when people are like, oh, how was Rey able to beat Kylo Ren? Watch the scene again. You watch that scene, and in fact, Also, watch every scene with Kylo Ren and Rey. At no point does Kylo Ren ever genuinely try to kill Rey. So when she does, and always, like literally episode 7, the whole battle, she's on the back foot. She's literally running away from Kylo Ren. And he's like bleeding to death, and he's like swinging at her and stuff. And he's like, hey, come on, join me. That's how I view this situation. Because remember, the Sith are very selfish individuals. Right then, he sees fire and fury, and he wants to kill May. She betrayed him. He wants to kill her. That's his intention right there. It's only when she's able to get away, and he's like, oh, wait. Now that she hit his helmet, and he's like, okay, gloves are off. And that's when he kills her. So the moment he realizes that she does have that edge over him, he instantly gets rid of her. So I would say, A, Jackie should have been a Jedi Knight, and that's implied with Soul. Like, he should have let her be a Jedi Knight sooner. So that pushes her up to Jedi Knight. Also, there have been plenty of Padawans who do outlandishly good things, okay? It's like saying, like, oh, if they're in varsity, that they're like, it's college football, so they're not as good as NFL. There's plenty of college football players better than NFL players. So that, like, just that simple ranking is political nonsense. I wouldn't hold too much weight to it. Jackie's skill is that. And also, bigger thing. Nobody fights other lightsaber users. They don't do that. That's something completely unheard of. So in terms of like the skill issue, Jackie is on the same level as everyone else. No, they don't fight lightsaber users. This is the first time for any of them, not only fighting a Jedi or not only fighting someone who has a lightsaber, but fighting someone with cortosis. Who this is crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that she was acting on her feet so quickly, and she's like, "Oh shit, I have another lightsaber," you know? Like, in the way that she went out of her way to break his helmet with the handle to be like, "I'm thinking on my feet, like, we got to get this shit." She's younger, therefore more creative. We've always seen that in the Jedi Council. As you get older in the Jedi, you get more strict with everything. She's younger, she's creative, she figures things out. But like I said, I don't think at any point she had an upper hand. The moment she does crack his skull, instantly goes shank, you're dead. He wastes no time in instantly killing her when he's like, "Oh, okay, I need to take you out because you're getting in my way now." So like, and he even turns his back on Soul. So how much of a threat does he actually think Soul and the Jedi are if he's willing to hold May and threaten May in monologue while Soul's on his back, you know?
I will also say, to Jackie's defense, of, well, a Padawan can't fight she shouldn't be strong enough here. The power levels that Obi-Wan Kenobi took down Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And he was a Padawan. So I will very gently say, it's not a Padawan power level thing. I think that's fine. I think Jackie being a badass was okay in the context. I think Yord getting bodied so easily is a bad thing. I think that was a mistake. He should have been a little bit stronger.
I think Yord was, because to me, like, because you got to watch that scene, because I've watched this episode like 4 times. You got to watch that scene because Yord gets caught with his pants down. He does jump on the thing because you see him. He's smart enough to know these things. He gets the helmet in his hand to fight off the deck because he's realized, oh, the Torah says, I see the helmet. Let me get on the offense. And then that's when the stranger whips him around and tricks him to snap his neck. He doesn't think people can do that. He's a Jedi. When has he ever likely lost a fist fight, let alone get absolutely thralled by someone who can snap his neck? That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys have, like, people have to remember, they've never fought another lightsaber loser, let alone a Sith who is strong enough and mean enough to get the job done. So I think for Yord, like, yeah, that sucked, and it was a way to go. But at the same time, he is fighting someone who doesn't understand. He doesn't understand how Sith work. We as the audience have seen Sith. We know that they're going to do underhand stuff. He doesn't know that, you know?
Right. I also think that this show, especially even just through talking this out, one thing I wish the show did a better job of showing the audience is how incompetent, and I use that word very delicately, how incompetent these Jedi would be to a Sith. Because there has been a lot of commotion online, like they should know it's a Sith, they should know it's a Sith. But if you even know anything about the High Republic, you know that the Sith have been out for such a long time, they don't even discuss the Sith even a little bit.
No. Because
there is no Sith presence at all.
Yeah.
So
I would argue too, and the way, like, and we're going to get more explanations to it. But the way I see it for all that is the Jedi, like, Soul is going to tell the green girl, I forget her name, which, by the way, her makeup in episode 1 was awful, but her makeup in episode 4 was amazing. I don't know what, I don't know if it was lighting or what they did, but she looks like two different characters. Like
master nepotism.
She's looks much cooler, I think. Anyways, so Soul's gonna tell her. That's just chain of command. He's gonna tell her, hey, there's this dude that killed all of us. He's got a lightsaber. He's a Sith. And she's gonna go, keep this to yourself. Keep their name out your mouth. Shut up. Don't ever bring this up again. And he's gonna say that privately. And then we're gonna go from there. Because we see in the trailer she does fight. She's the one with the whip.
She's got the whip.
So she's going to do something. So either she's going to trust Soul and be like, oh, there's a Sith. Let's take him out. And then that's when I think Kimir's either going to get murdered by all the Jedi Masters. And they're going to be like, hey, let's not talk about anyone again. Or he's going to kill them. But my thinking is the Jedi Masters are all going to come together and they're going to kill him. And I think he might take one or two of them out. But I think they're going to kill him. And Soul is going to be like, this is really, really awful. I'm out. I can't imagine Soul after everything that's happened. He's gonna stay. So he'll exile himself. The Jedi will have taken care of the Sith, and they go, "Hey, we took care of the Sith. We're done. There's no issue anymore. If we kill the Sith, what's the problem?" And Soul might be like, "Hey, wait, like he's clearly not the master," and they'll be like, "Well, when it happens, it happens." Because I think that's the hubris of the Jedi. I don't think that this show is trying to say the Jedi are bad. It's trying to say that politics are going to get in the way of things, which is exactly what that's happened, you know?
And that does happen in the prequels. I just wish that they did a better job of demonstrating how out of touch the Jedi are with the current state of the Sith. Because, they don't know what a Sith is.
The show's not
over.
I agree.
Therein lies a bigger problem, is that the show is written so like a film that has been chopped and then stretched to fit episodic runtime. And I feel like that does the show a disservice, because if this was a movie and we got to watch all of this play out, it wouldn't have a 14% Rotten Tomato score. That I can tell you. That I can tell you, because even the review bombers wouldn't be able to. Well, that's what. Yes, the audience score would not be as low.
I think
it would not be as low.
I think they were going to review bomb it. Did you see that they review bombed everything named the Acolyte? They're too stupid to even review bomb the right thing. Like Google, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, any movie that has come out that is named the Acolyte had been review bombed. That's how stupid they are, and that's how obvious they are. There is a Star Wars fan film called The Acolyte that came out like 5 years ago, and it got review bombed. There was like a British show that came out in 2001, got review bombed because it was called The Acolyte. That's how stupid they are. So to me, it's saying that when that's how obviously bad they are at review bombing, I could give a shit about the audience review. You know?
Oh, I think all of the review systems are fixed. I think it's all bullshit, because the critics need to make sure that they get access. They continue getting access, so they're gonna throw curveballs sometimes. They're gonna give very light throws, which they've been on record saying.
There's some critics who are fairly mean to everyone, and they still get early, because you gotta remember, not every critic sees the movie early. Some of them see it when it comes out, and they don't get preferential treatment. So, and I'll argue this: I've been to plenty of red carpets, and I've said a lot of shit about a lot of stuff. And so far, the only one that got pissy was Marvel Studios. So
this is a great question here I want to answer. In episode 4, there seems to be a disconnect between what the Padawans are being told and what they are actually doing. Was this foreshadowing Jeki's death? I would have to go back and see exactly what they're saying, but it has to do with keeping your movements very, very much within the Jedi bounds of fighting. So was it foreshadowing? I don't think it was foreshadowing. It could have just been showing that the Sith fight in a different style, and so that what the Jedi are teaching each other is actually outdated now.
I would also argue,
as I'm trying to discuss this idea.
Yeah, I would say it's probably showing that Jeki. This is the justification for Jeki being so good. Because so I don't know if it's been like you're aware of this. So episode 4 and 5 were one episode. They confirmed.
Oh,
that.
I know. Oh, yeah. I know, because it feels like they carved it. There was episode 4 is a husk of an episode.
Yeah, so
it was embarrassingly short, and
when they wrote the series, episode 4 and 5 were the same episode. Episode 4 was a lot quicker, and then the fight scene was the rest of it. But Disney Plus, and I was going to tell people, Star Wars does not have final say. Disney has final say. However, Disney very rarely waives that. They usually don't dick swing, but for this they did. And they said, hey, Disney Plus, because you got to remember, the whole Bob Chapek, all that nonsense, and him putting his little bestie in charge of Disney Plus who had final creative control, a lot of things, dumb things happened because of that. So what happened was they said, hey, we need one more episode from you guys. So she's left with an option of, do I write a whole nother episode that is going to make the series seem really stagnant, or do I cut an episode in half? And the options was cut an episode in half, and from there you have to go, which episode? And I would rather have this 4 and 5 been cut than any other episode, because 4 and 5, at least it's a traveling journey. With episodes 1, 2, you can't cut any of that. You know, it's already paced very slowly.
But that further brings up the point of then Disney is doing a disservice to themselves by making the episodes feel so light. So you're telling me that this series was written intact and they kind of pulled it apart, which why wouldn't they have just made a damn movie at that point? It would have been more satisfying for every person involved in this process than to make these haphazard, short 20-minute episodes. By the time the runtime is done, the last 8 minutes is all credits. Where did that $180 million go?
So I would argue that the practical effects are second to none in this. I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate how many practical sets they built for this show. It's way more than we've ever gotten before, because
you can tell they're sound stages.
Yeah, they built all of these sets. Everything you're seeing is all built, and it's beautiful. The cities, the towns they go to, the spaceships, everything is all practical, and that is a lot of
Coruscant overshot.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, you know, like, because we can look at Mandalorian, but Mandalorian was almost none of that is practical effects. That's all filmed in that really
the
sick,
volume. It's on the volume.
Yeah, and that works great for the Mandalorian. But for this, they wanted to do practical effects and it's just expensive. It's just the way it is. Practical effects are very expensive. That's where the budget went. And I see people like, oh, House of Dragons and blah, blah, blah. I get that. But also, I would also argue that the actor who played Soul probably got a really nice paycheck. No hate to
he had to learn English for this.
They don't have A-list actors. And the guy, Squid Games, regardless of opinions, is the most popular show in the history of streaming. The numbers are absolutely outlandish for that, and he was the main character of that. That means he's got money and he's got a price, and they have to pay it. And I would argue he's earning his paycheck. I don't think anyone can argue, even if you hate the Acolyte, you can't argue that Master Soul isn't going, I'm earning this paycheck. Dude learned English in 3 months just to chew up every scene, like phenomenal. So yeah, like the budgets get overblown, but it's practical effects. Even the lightsabers, like look at all the lightsabers combat and everything. It's like there's little nuances that I think people don't appreciate anymore, where like the lightsabers are slightly bigger so they can actually build like actual usable lights and LEDs that glow off their face. We didn't have that before. Watch the old Star Wars. Those lightsabers don't actually cast any light because they didn't. Right. There were sticks or PVC pipes, you know, and now that we have these things, I think we get a little bit spoiled by this kind of stuff and go like, oh, well, like the prequels is literally all done on soundstage. Like, I don't know how you can watch that Clone Wars 2 battle where all of the actors are in a soundstage there's not even any, it's literally sand, green screen. And they're like, they weren't even directed to like, hey, do this. They're literally like, hey guys, you're just deflecting blasters, action. And
then they superimpose the blaster shots later on.
Yeah, to me, it's just like, you know, and they were like I said, a lot of them didn't even have the PVC pipes in it. Yes, you can. Okay, but your shirt is backwards. You don't have to switch it, but your shirt is sorry. It's fine.
All right, so then let's change dials here just a little bit.
Okay.
Here's something that I can't stand in the last episode, and I want to know what your thoughts are because it makes no sense to me.
Okay.
Master Soul takes Chimere down, and is going to kill him. Yeah. Why does Osha stop him?
To me, that is a very simple, obvious answer. He would have become evil if he did.
The show doesn't tell us that, though.
It does.
It just feels so abrupt.
The whole show is about duality. The whole show is about good and evil. May and Osha. Oshi's good, May is evil. Osha doesn't want, and you got to remember, Osha is not a stranger to Soul. She knows Soul. She knows Soul probably better than everything. And the show has already discussed that Soul is already telling that line. Jackie brings up that he has a picture of his Padawan. She's like, "Hey, aren't we not supposed to have attachments? Isn't that illegal?" And he's like, "Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. I really cared about that little girl. She changed my life. She's like a daughter to me." So if we look at the situation from a father and a daughter, which that's the trope of every show nowadays, but that means we have a lot to pull from. It's a father who's about to lose his shit and brutally, viciously murder the shit out of someone. That is not what Jedi do. They don't do that. And how they do it is more important. To say Jedi don't kill people, of course they kill people, right? It's brought up in the first episode. Don't draw your lightsaber unless you're ready to kill someone. And what does that Jedi Master do? She puts her lightsaber away because she's like, "You're right, I'm not ready to kill you." So I think with that in mind of why she stopped him, it's because she knew, because remember, she's arguably more force sensitive than anyone else there. She probably knew if she was better trained, she probably would have sensed, and she probably did sense the stranger was there, right? She knew about the bugs. She knew how to use the bugs. She is very force sensitive. I think in that moment, that was her force going, if he goes to this point, there's no going back. Once again, referencing the prequels. If Anakin goes to that sand people, if he went to the Tusken Raider village, that was his point of no return. That was the single moment where Anakin turned evil. And you can say, well, they were this and they were that, and the Tusken Raiders didn't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe they did deserve it. Did the women deserve it? Did the children deserve it? That was Anakin's point of no return. And to me, when Star Wars is all about good versus evil, this is the moment Soul. Because remember, previously he tried to attack him from behind, right? That's underhanded. Jedi don't do that. Stranger was like, "Bro, getting a little Sithy for me. I dig it, you know?" I think that was Osha going like, "My master's about to go to the dark side, and there's no coming back from that." And he already has the guilt of everything that happened with Osha and May as they were kids. So
and watching everyone die right here.
Yeah. So I think that him doing that, it's not that why she stopped him from killing. It's why she stopped him from killing the way he was going to do it. He wasn't going to kill him as a Jedi Knight. He was killing him out of anger. And anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. So I don't think that, I think that was the right call. It sucks that that's what happened and what Stranger and everything did. Because you look at people like, oh, so the bugs and this guy got, but Osha's not trying to kill him. She's trying to save her master. She's trying to stop the murdering and the killing from happening. She does that to Kimir so he can get the hell out of there, so they can get the hell out of there. Because Master Soul is really, really good. I wouldn't put money that he was going to win that fight. After that one time where he was going to, unless he was willing to do evil stuff, I don't think he would have beat Stranger. I think Stranger would have done something and Soul would have got. So for me, looking at this, I go, she's trying to save his soul. Duel of Fates.
I'm really glad. I'm glad we're having this discussion because it's showing a different perspective that I wouldn't have caught without having another mind watch it. So I'm kind of glad we're going through this because I don't see any of that. All I see is really clunky dialogue, and then they already do a lot of telling and not showing, but those are the things they're showing very poorly.
I mean, so I would argue Duel of the Fates. People, I would say like 75% of Jedi, like the Star Wars audience, don't even understand the whole point of Duel of the Fates. They don't understand the name of the song. They don't understand why it's called Duel of the Fates. That whole battle and how important it is that they're literally fighting for Anakin's soul. Nobody, I guarantee you, most Star Wars fans don't realize that.
Or Augie's Great Municipal Band is actually the Emperor Palpatine theme, just sped up, and nobody realizes that. And
this is also what a good point to bring up the music, right?
Yes.
Because there was musical cues in this episode that people didn't catch on, and they weren't by accident. The music's never by accident in Star Wars. Of all the things you can complain about, music is never by accident, and the music is so important.
So, the episode opens on Osha, and we very clearly hear the Kylo Ren motif. At the end of the episode, it is showing Osha, and we get the Kylo Ren motif again. What the hell does that mean? And why is it Kylo Ren, and why is it on Osha, who's supposed to be the good one of the group?
That's what I love about this, right? So I think that we're all getting swerved. Because
are they going to switch? They're going to switch places and moralities by the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Osha is good because she doesn't know, and May is evil, quote unquote, because she does know. But I think May is going to talk to Soul, and he's going to pour his heart out, thinking it's because remember, Soul, as we're going to find out, Soul is going to literally tell Osha everything. It's May. He doesn't realize it's May, but he's going to tell her everything. And I think that's going to be the moment where he's going to be like,
redeem her.
Yeah, she's going to be, well, it's going to redeem himself to her. And she's going to be like, damn, that's crazy. I never thought of it that way. May, Osha, on the other hand, is going
to find out the truth.
From the stranger, no less.
Okay.
So he's going to tell her, you know that guy that you viewed as a father? Scumbag. That's going to make her switch and go, wait a minute. He was doing that stuff to me? I understand why May is doing what she's doing. And then they're going to meet up. And May and Osha are going to have these different appear. May's going to be like, sis, totally wrong. May's going to be like, no, you were, or Osha's going to be like, no, you were right. And they're going to be like, wait, no.
Let's fight.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be the battle. And I think the stranger's going to unlock that force in Osha because she is strong. She's insanely strong. She just doesn't understand it yet. And remember, Sith is the easy way to power. If she's got all of this force energy built up in her, and the stranger's able to just go, whoop, take that lid off, I don't know if May can beat her because that's all she is stronger than May. Absolutely. And we're going to get that force push and we're going to get it back because they've been building that shit up from the start. That May is like up here and Osha's down here. But once Osha gets unleashed, possibly as a Sith, that's when she's going to skyrocket. So I think the whole Kylo Ren theme is them building up that there's going to be a turn.
Interesting. All right, I like that.
To it. It's even in the episode, she's like, "Your force push sucked." That's foreshadow.
Did you watch Supergirl?
The TV show?
The CW show?
A little bit.
Do you remember the guy who played Martian Manhunter in that show?
Yes.
Okay, so for everybody else, or did you play Alan Wake 2 by chance? It would have been last November.
Like a year ago?
It came out in November.
Yeah, I don't know if I played it, but I know of it.
So anyway, same actor. I've streamed it here on the channel, so everybody watching may know who Mr. Door is from Alan Wake 2, or if you watch Supergirl, Martian Manhunter. Is allegedly a secret cameo in this show. Now, David Harwood, the actor, has not appeared in anything else Star Wars. Is he the true master of the Sith in this episode? Is he Kymir's master? Because if so, I'm in. I'm back in. You've got me back in. I love David Harwood.
He's probably Darth Tenebris. And I would say that, so Manny came out, the actor Manny Jacinto came out and said that the stranger is a Sith Lord.
Sith Lord.
He's a Sith Lord.
As it like not the Sith Lord.
I don't know if he said this. I don't.
Semantics
is the yeah. Regardless, so people are like, oh, well, he said he's a Sith. He's a Sith, right? Because the rule of two has always been bullshit. I like the amount of people that don't understand the rule of two was meant to be broken astonishes me.
Right.
It was meant to be broken. That's the whole point of a Sith. They've never had just one apprentice. There's always been
always two. There are, and 17 acolytes.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're trying to tell me like, oh, there's only two Sith, and we literally have the Inquisitorius.
I can't stand the Inquisitorius, but that's just me.
I think I
can't stand them.
I like the idea of it, but like, yeah, they could be better done. But anyways,
I would have preferred the Secret Apprentice and Starkiller, not to the Force Unleashes power level, but like just the idea of the Secret Apprentice to take out the Master is fine with me. The Inquisitorius is just come on now. You just wanted more red lightsabers for Rebel.
Yes, and it doesn't even make any sense because not all of them are even force sensitive. But right? I don't think all of are they.
No, I believe they're all force sensitive, but they're all just terrible. The only one that had a good story at all was Trilla from Force Fallen Order.
Yeah. Yeah, I stand by this. I want the playground to be moved from prequels and original to the sequel era. Everything Mando and after, let's play in that playground. That's what I want for the future Star Wars. And I've heard that that's the future. Is that after the Acolyte and what's the next one coming out with Jude Law?
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I heard that after that, their Star Wars is done. They're either doing High Republic era or sequel era. They've felt they tapped out the jar of prequel original, and I'm happy.
Please stop making prequels content. That's okay. It's you beat it to death. You've beaten it to death. Enough is enough.
That's not to
it was
say
fun while it was here, but I like a lot of it.
Yeah,
but still.
And to me, it's like, do we consider Andor prequel era, or do we call it the in between era? Do we call it the fall era? Do we call it OT? What is Andor? Because if you're going to say
between episodes, I think bring Andor in, finish it up, and then get out of that era.
Yeah,
everything leading into episode 4, I don't want any more of. Like the Bad Batch era, that's why I really love what Jedi Survivor did. It cut itself entirely away from anything happening with the Skywalkers. It is entirely in its own place. It's on its own planets. It's its own little sect. And it's moving forward, and it's connecting to the High Republic. And I love what they did with that. And it was its own niche in the Star Wars world that is both running at the same time and canon in its own way. And I love that for it. That's what we did with the Clash of Destiny RPG show. It's like, it's happening, it's at the same time, but it's its own story. So if we get more of that, that's fine. I believe that's why Andor's doing good too. Mando as well.
I would argue that there's more than just the PT, OT, ST. I feel like nowadays there's Old Republic, there's High Republic, there's nerds. Damn right,
nerds.
And it makes me good money, my friend. Makes me good money. So there's Old Republic, High Republic. There's prequel. There's the Fall. I'm calling it pretty much between PT and OT, the original trilogy. Then there's the Mandoverse, and then there's the sequel. And I think that Fallen Order is heading into the Mandoverse, which is super cool. I hope it keeps going, because the first one was episode 4, Jedi Survivor.
Jedi Survivor was 2.
Yeah, so that takes place after the fall of the Death Star, and even Star Wars Battlefront 2. For all its faults, that story was pressing forward. That story said, "Hey,
I believe Survivor is before A New Hope. It's still before A New Hope, because it's the original suit Darth Vader.
So it's Jedi Survivor.
Jedi Survivor with Cal Kestis. Yeah. It's still before A New Hope.
Because 14 BBY. Yeah, 14 BBY.
Yeah.
Oh no, so Jedi Fallen Order is 14 BBY, Survivor is 9 BBY. So you're right. So it hasn't reached episode 4 just yet.
But it's in a niche where it's not touching anything, and it could live out its own legacy, and I'm happy about that. It is okay to make Star Wars in its own niches in the world and in its own places in the galaxy. It doesn't have to be exactly Skywalkers. I like Skywalkers. That's what we gotta have
with High Republic.
But I want to second that by saying, bring back Luke. So it's a two-sided thing. I think it's okay to do things over here, but I think on the other side, we got Ahsoka season 2 coming out. There's the big rumor that just dropped. They're recasting Baylan Skoll. They're bringing in Abeloth, which is a massive character from the Legends books. And Luke Skywalker is the protagonist in those books. How are you going to do this? The greatest threat in the galaxy, aside from Palpatine, and Luke is not going to be there. He's twiddling his thumbs on I forget what the sequel's Jedi Temple planet was.
I don't care if it's a show or a movie, but I think because at the end of the day, and I will swear on this and bet on everything, the sequel trilogy will get the Clone Wars TV show treatment, and it will retroactively make the sequels better. And
I'm waiting for it.
That's what the Mandalorian is already doing. Mandalorian's already explaining the little things of how Palpatine came back. So it's no longer he came back somehow. We know why he's coming back, because the Mandalorian is slowly but still forward explaining why. Secondly, I think that we are going to get eventually a Luke Skywalker explain. Like, I know we've had the comic books, but as always, the comic books are guidelines, and the shows and movies will always, you know.
Lucasfilm has already been very clear that they will retcon the comic books and books anytime they need to, which is why I put no value into them. And
I mean, like, it's like the legend stuff. Like, there's some cool legend stuff. Like, I was talking about it about like the Yuuzhan Vong. Like, I like the Yuuzhan Vong. I hope they come back. They would be great to be the episodes 10, 11, 12 villains if they were changed. You can't just straight up bring the Yuuzhan Vong back as they.
You'd have to adapt them.
Yeah, because the Force being absent of the Force was always stupid. It was the dumbest thing. And as the Darth Troko pointed out, he's like, yeah, and the way they beat them is like, what if we just try harder? And then that's how they beat them.
Hey, willpower, right?
Yeah, what I would change about the Yuuzhan Vong is don't give them lightsaber proof armor. Make them quick. Just make them really good at dodging. I think right now, like Beskar and all that stuff, that's that. I don't.
And now
think
Cortosis.
Yeah, like not Cortosis. Like, just because to me, like, so the Yuuzhan Vong were based off Aztec culture, like straight up 1-for-1. They were named after a Filipino food, but they are inspired by a Filipino restaurant. Hence the Tagalog sounding name of Yuuzhan Vong. But the actual society of Yuuzhan Vong is 100% Aztec. The snakes they wield comes from Aztec mythology. The snakes breathing fire comes from Aztec mythology. The bloodletting, the attire they use, their patriarchal system, all that, it's all 1-for-1 with Aztec stuff. So, and me being a literal expert on Aztec mythology and culture, it's the way I view that. I'm like, the way they fought was dodging. They had shields and they had armor. There's this weird idea they ran around in like little loincloths. They had shields and they had armor.
They're hard to hit.
Yeah, and the Aztecs actually created the first ever bulletproof armor. By accident, they didn't realize they had, but they were the first creators of it. And so, to me, I'm like, just let them dodge. Just let them dodge. I think it'd be so cool to see the Yuuzhan Vong come back with their weapons, with everything, and have Rey and her new Jedi Academy fight them.
That'd be interesting.
I don't know what they're going to do with Rey. I still stand by. Look, I am a feminist. I'm a left wing. I'm a liberal Democrat. Blah, 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 blah. I do not think they should have hired that lady. She is erroneously unprepared for that role as director of a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars film. I don't care how good of a journalist she is. She is not prepared for this. And there have been exceptions. Don't get me wrong. Look at Inside Out 2. The person who did Inside Out 2, that was their big film. That was their first big, and Inside Out 2 is the highest grossing movie of the year. So like, I think that you can strike magic with a nobody. I stand by that. James Gunn is a perfect example of someone who started off as a literal nobody making cheap, smutty garbage, and now he's in charge of the DC universe. You can strike gold. I don't think they will. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, if they fuck up that movie, I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know what you do to come back from that at that point.
Agreed.
So something that I've often said it with Book of Boba Fett, because Book of Boba Fett was not very good. It was not very good, but a lot of people were like, we shouldn't have gotten this. I don't want this. And something I've always said is, I'd rather have it than not have it. That last episode of Book of Boba Fett is very engaging and it's fun. The season is shit, but that last episode is great and totally makes up for it and is absolute fan service fun.
Yeah.
Having Grogu power down the Rancor, having him coming in, riding the Rancor, it is that right there is the Star Wars for children I want more of. Yeah. That's the fun stuff. The battle in Mos Espa, having them on the ropes. Oh my gosh, they're going to lose. The two gunslingers together, cowboys in the streets. That's the fun Star Wars I want more of. And we don't get that.
I mean, I would argue we got that with this new episode of Acolyte. That was a pretty badass episode.
I would have to agree. I think the fighting, there's glaring issues with some of the more you watch it and the closer you look, there are problems with the choreography because they're just fighting for choreography because they know they have to compete with other Star Wars choreography. So that's what they're trying to do. And then when you look at it from like a fighting style, you could see where some of the Jedi, even in the beginning, are like missing. They're very clearly terrible at this. It does tie into the story that we've already discussed, which does make sense, but it's like, oh, y'all are really bad at this, fighting the Sith dude. He is destroying you.
Which I would argue, A, Sith Lord, B, they don't know they don't know how to fight that.
Yeah, they don't know how, they're not ready for this fight. I will agree with that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not like, and the thing is too, so like in preparation for this, I watched 2 hours. It's a YouTube video. It's like 2.5 hours long on YouTube of every single lightsaber fight scene in Star Wars history. I watched that whole sucker because my baby son woke up at 2 a.m. in the morning today and I had nothing else to do. So I watched that and I can tell you, it is lightsaber battles are all about your cup of tea. Because everyone is different, because every person that's done it, even George Lucas himself, has changed his opinion on what a lightsaber fight should look like. So, like, if you watch the original battle between Luke and Darth Vader, it's a very short fight scene. I think there's this weird idea that, like, Luke and Darth Vader fought forever. Their battle was less than 3 minutes long. And there was a lot of
both fights are very short.
They're very, very short fights.
They're good fights. They're great fights.
They're samurai.
They're short.
They're the Kurosawa,
every strike is meaningful,
which is it should be. That's the way. This lightsaber can cut anyone in half with one swing. Every movement you take with that should be important, and every movement someone takes with that against you should be important. One single wrong mistake, you're dead. They're not going to cut your hand. You're like, my armor. Your arm's gone, and it's going to keep going through you. And I think that the George Lucas, because he was making it more for kids, was like, nah, like that's like it's okay, like, you know, and that's where we get the really spinny shit, which like I can't stand that spinny shit. I can't stand it. I think the prequel movies and their fight scenes are so stupid. And
I love
crazy
those
because everyone's like, well, George Lucas has a fundamental misunderstanding of his own shit. This idea that like, well, he did it, so it's okay. No, anyone, even the creator, can be wrong about their content. They can misunderstand things. They can have changing opinions, right? We see it all the time. Someone has a kid and their opinions change. It happened. There was an article that came out, they're like, yeah, did you know this one scene was because of George Lucas's son? Harry Potter only got picked up because one of the publishers was like, the agents, his daughter read it and she's like, that's cool, I like it. And he's like, really? I think this shit sucks. And she's like, no, I like it. That's how Harry Potter got made. Because of like,
that's interesting.
Okay, same as it happens all the time. If you guys love Halloween Horror Nights, have you noticed that 10 years ago or like 14 years ago, they used to be genuinely scary and the scare zones and everything, and how they don't do that anymore? Guess what happened 14 years ago? The creator of Halloween Horror Nights had a kid, and he wanted to do more family-friendly stuff so he could start taking his kids. So now instead of the big scare zones and the actors jumping out and scaring the shit out of you, now it's more of entertainment. So you have to understand that these sometimes creators will change things, right? And that's what we have the flippy shit in the High Republic, but to a pulled back degree, because she grew up watching the High Republic. She likes that flippy shit, but she's like, but too flippy, you know? So we have these more intense, really quick, fast-paced battles, whereas like you look at Kenobi, right? That Vader Kenobi scene, fucking awful. I'm sorry to cuss. Super dumb and awful. That scene was.
You're talking about the finale, right?
The finale battle between Kenobi and Vader was dumb. Kenobi's like this. He lifts up all these rocks and he's like, ha ha, and he like throw.
That scene is awful.
CGI nonsense.
That's the only thing we got out of that show are incredible dialogue lines between Vader and Obi-Wan, but that fight is terrible. And the rocks hitting each other with the rocks, like. What the hell is this? I mean, Vader should have been crushed. The hitting them with these big boulders and they just turned to dust on him. Talk about a display of disbelief here, because I don't believe any of this.
And look, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but rewatching all of the lightsaber fight scenes in there, the best fight scene in Kenobi is with Reva and Vader. And I will stand by
that's a good one. I agree. That's a good one.
Because Vader looks absolutely terrifying in that fight. They were like, he's not
100%.
He doesn't even take his lightsaber. He
tears hers apart.
And he's like, I'm going to use yours to stab you because I'm better than you. It's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. It is the best. And like,
Here's I got a few questions here. So we are running a little low on time, and there are a handful of things I want to get to when it comes to horror, but let's rapid fire through these. Okay, why did May attack Jedi when she said she wanted to surrender?
Are you talking about her fighting Jecki?
I think it has to do with Jecki.
Jecki didn't know that she wanted to surrender, and Jecki was trying to arrest her, and it was fight or flight. I think it's that simple. I think, to me, if I look at that situation, I go, oh, my master's here and he knows that I failed. I got to get out of here. Because you got to remember, May was trying to run for her life that entire episode. She's trying to escape that entire episode. And for Jecki, so like if I'm running from my life from someone who can murder me, and there's this cop that's like, I'm going to put you in handcuffs. The hell you are? You're going to get murdered, and then he's going to murder me. I'm like, and I think that's the simple answer, is that she wanted to surrender up until she realized that their master was here, and then she's like, nah, never mind, I'm gonna dip, I'm a coward, I'm out. That's how I view it. And Jecki is not one to understand that.
I also want to say that May, at this point in time, we don't know, like, May isn't good. So her saying, I'm going to surrender, she does not want to get arrested. It's just a better solution than going back to her master. And so May is slippery. So she's just trying to get through bob and weave. She has no allegiance to actually going to jail. She does not feel like she needs to give up for her crimes. She still hates the Jedi. Like so that's one thing I will totally defend there is she ain't good. She's just going from solution to solution as they come up in front of her. But yeah, it has nothing to do with, all right, I give up, I'm good now. She's not good now. There has to be that, I'll say, come to Jesus moment where it's like, okay, I am now changing sides. I think the show has not done a good job of doing that. They imply, you really have to read into it, because on the surface level, they don't do a very good job of, they make you think, oh my God, what? She just flipped sides? Like, she just heel turned? It's like, no, she hasn't heel turned.
She's
not fully,
I don't think
anyway.
She's ever been like, that's what I'm saying. It's one of those things like, as a wrestling fan, like I see heel turns for the silliest of things all the time. So I would say she's in it for herself, and she's scared that like.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah. She's just trying to escape, and then when Jecki's going to put up a fight like that, and
she doesn't try to kill Jecki. She doesn't try to kill Jecki.
She does try to stab Jecki. Because and what was the trigger? Was when Jecki says, because you killed your family. And the fire that killed your family. Does Matthew know where the Ewoks got the spare dress? Was it a victim from the Ewoks? So this is something that's come up a few times in Return of the Jedi. The Ewoks have a dress that perfectly fits Princess Leia. Mm-hmm. Where did that dress come from?
They made it for her.
How and when, and was there time for that? It is actually a really silly plot point. The more you think about it, it's like, where did that dress come from in such a short amount of time?
It's possible that someone crash landed, because you gotta remember, Endor was an unknown moon that was never charted. So
right.
It could have been that someone landed there way far ago and they killed that person, or they were friends with that person and the person died of old age, or they saw that person and they ate them and kept their dress, or they just made it, because you got to remember the Ewoks are a hunter-gatherer tribesman people. They do sew clothing. It's possible that they made her the dress, but yeah, reasonably, there's no excuse. It's like when George Lucas was like, "Oh, sorry, Princess Leia doesn't wear underwear. There's no underwear in space," and she's like, "But you should say that, George." It's one of those weird things you just have to accept.
Here's a quick one, and this one's a little silly. Right now, today, they released the helmet for the Stranger on Hasbro.com.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
It is retailing for $100.
That's not
bad.
And
the shipping date is fall of 2025. So my question to you is anybody still going to give a shit by fall 2025 about getting this helmet? Or is that a really horrible shipping time?
It is a horrible shipping time. But I would say that, they could always release it sooner. This is just, it's customer service 101. If it's going to take me 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you it's going to take me 10 minutes, so that when I do it in 5, you can be like, wow, I was going to wait 10. Thank you for doing it so fast. So I would say that they could always change the date. And
are people still going to care about it over a year from now?
Yes, cool is cool. People still feel about the Vader helmet 60 years later. Cool is cool.
Oh,
That helmet is cool.
I got that was one thing I did buy for the Obi-Wan show. I got the Vader helmet specifically because I really love the red tinted eye lenses that they used in that show. It was so damn cool. Okay, so I want to pivot. Let's get away from Star Wars as we tie the show up really quick. You know the backstory to the Dark Universe.
Yes.
Now, when I say Dark Universe, I could be saying multiple Dark Universes, but very specifically, there was supposed to be a Dark Universe that featured Tom Cruise, Javier Bardem, Johnny Depp. What happened to it, and why did it fall apart?
So let me I'm gonna flex really quick. I actually had a private Zoom call with the vice president of Universal Monsters in the Dark Universe. We spoke for over an hour, almost 2 hours, and we discussed everything. And she was. We probably should have signed an NDA. I probably should have signed an NDA, and I did not.
Are you going to say anything that gets you in trouble?
No.
Okay. No. I just want to make sure we're not getting in trouble.
I emailed her the other day, and I was just like, hey, good job in the Dark Universe. And she's like, I know, we're so excited. So I will tell you this. So I do have that. And she, for those of you that don't know, Holly Goline, you can look her up. She was Angelina Jolie's assistant for all of Angelina Jolie's career. She went on to produce her movies. She signed a contract with Universal. Universal was looking for someone to take over the Dark Universe. After it failed, she came on after the movie failed. So after the franchise initially failed, she came on. But it was her idea, I can tell you, and I don't think this is anywhere on the internet, the Fortnite Universal Monsters short that came out, that was her idea. That was her brainchild. She did everything for it. I don't think she's listed anywhere on there, but that was her brainchild. That was her everything, right? So we talked, and I pitched her ideas, and I said, oh, I want this direction, this direction. I asked her what happened. Yes, Renfield did bomb. I tried to be nice about it, and she's like, no, it's not going to make its money. But I was like, well, DVD sales, and she's like, no DVD sales.
It's a shame.
Yeah. Well, it cost too much money. It cost $80 million. What kind of, I don't know why they approved it. And even then, so I can tell you this. I can tell you something that is nobody else knows, that there were plans from Universal Studios to do a Spanish-Mexican Dracula movie. So that is on her table. I don't know when it's going to get made, if ever, but that was something that, one of the reasons she approached me, because she wanted to talk to me about it. And she said $20 million. That's going to be our thing going forward, $20 million. So, of course, to bring up your question, the Dark Universe, why it failed and everything. So, for starters, that group photo never took place. That was Photoshop. The group photo, it came out years after the fact that there was Photoshop and someone released it and they shouldn't have released it. And they were like, screw it. So that was the plan. So the whole big thing with Tom Cruise and everything was to do this action adventure, big budget MCU movie, hence Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, blah, 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 right? Because what she told me, because you know me, I'm all about diversity, and all my pitches and everything, which is how it got her attention was my pitches for Universal Monsters, is diversity. I think we should spread out. What she's told me in her exact words were, I get it, executives don't. Because they're scared that if you take, like, for instance, I pitched this idea for, like, Korean Dracula. And she's like, at what point is it no longer Dracula? And is that point past where people will go see it? You know? She's like, because we are working on something that's 100 years old. At what point do they go, this isn't my Dracula anymore? You know? That's the big thing. This isn't my Dracula. This isn't my Star Wars. This isn't this, right? And that's an easy way to kill a franchise. So with all that, I know she does have plans. To this day, has plans for rebooting the franchise. I know that they want to reboot the franchise. I know they want a Dark Universe franchise. They just don't know how to go about it. There's ideas for animation. That seemed to be the big sticking point, is that if we do get it, it'll be animation and it'll probably be a show. And that the live action movies, they're just going to let people do whatever they want with those. If someone comes in and has an idea, give it to them.
Do you think that the growth of the Universal Dark Universe at Epic Universe is going to help move the dial on getting a movie out?
I think so. This is my thing. If they were going to do animation, the Epic Universe, the Dark Universe and Epic Universe, which, by the way, that's my Epic Universe statue right there. I don't know if that's the best way to go. Like I said, she has plans. She's told me they have plans, but there's a lot of red tape in this. So if I was them, first off, my complaint about the Dark Universe at Epic Universe is what time is this? Because they say it's her great-great-grandmother, right? And Frankenstein takes place in 1890, roughly. So if it's her great-great-granddaughter of Victor Frankenstein, we're still possibly not even in the 2000s yet. We're still going to be somewhere in like the 1950s, in which case there's like sellswords and mercenaries and like monster hunters and stuff with swords and crossbows. That timeline doesn't add up. So that's my concern, is that I don't think they realize that their timeline doesn't add up. That if Victoria Frankenstein, the great-great-granddaughter of Victor Frankenstein, it shouldn't happen. That doesn't make any sense. If, you know, and you could push it back because I think the original Frankenstein novel came out in like 1830. So if we're saying like, oh, well, like actually Frankenstein was closer to 1830, which it's not. The film just doesn't present itself that way. I don't know. I'm going to say is I still don't think they know what they're doing. I still don't think that they have a solid proof plan for what they want to do. I like the Epic Universe. Clearly, I'm a big fan of Dark Universe. I've worked on ads with them. I've worked with them. I've talked to them. They're great people, but also I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and I don't think there's enough fresh eyes on that to justify, like, hey, we're gonna move forward with the franchise. I don't think they have a solid plan yet. Because I talked to her a year ago, and they had nothing in hard writing for that. So
fair enough.
I hope, but yeah, for people hoping like it'll lead to something, I wouldn't keep your hopes up just yet. These things take time, and right now I think they're not even in pre-production on like an idea for it. I could be wrong.
All right. So, well, I think with that's pretty much going to tie up all the time that we've got for today. Matt, firstly, I want to thank you for jumping on with me. This has been a lot of fun. We got to do this because we haven't had the time to talk even about like Star Wars amongst ourselves. So this was fun for us to even just to talk together. But this was really good. This was incredibly enlightening. So I really like that you were able to bring a different perspective. We will play all these perspectives for the Acolyte. It redeemed a lot of the show in my mind. I mean, I still have a lot of problems with it, but I'm still just looking for like, give me that moment where I'm like, no, this was damn good, and I judged it too quickly and too harshly. Please, I want to be wrong. Like, please tell me I'm wrong. I will take the biggest L. That doesn't hurt my feelings. That doesn't hurt me. I have no problem saying I was wrong about the Acolyte if I am. So I'm looking forward to it. They got to stick the landing.
I think it's going to be funny because we're going to have this weird division where people are going to come in having not known anything about it, and they're going to binge the show. And binging it is going to be a lot different than watching it.
It's going to be so much better to binge it.
Acolyte was one of the best shows ever. It was so good because they got to binge it, and everything went smoothly that way. Because, like you said, it is a movie. It is a movie that they chopped into unsatisfying short chapters. That I'm like, I don't want to watch this week to week. I'm watching it for content at this point, and because I'm a Star Wars fan. But holy crap, this is an awful watch week to week. Yeah.
And
I will tell you though, as an insider note, Moana 2 and Megamind, those movies were actually TV shows that ran over budget, and both of those the studios went, let's make it a movie. So just a heads up, gauge your expectations for that. I mean, obviously, I don't know if you saw the trailer for the Megamind movie that's already out on Paramount Plus that went straight to Paramount. Awful because it was a show. They cut 4 episodes and made it a movie, and that's why there's a show coming. Because they're just finishing the season that they were starting. And as for Moana 2, yes, it's one of those situations where they made the show. Bob Iger said, how much is it costing? A Disney Plus show is making a movie. So just a heads up, some insider information for you guys. Moana 2 was a show that got turned into a movie. And at
least Inside Out made money.
Inside Out 2 did make a lot of money, which is great because they were going to fire 10% of Pixar staff if that movie didn't make its money.
Well, save Pixar for another day. But all right, my friends, everybody back home, I want you to create, innovate, inspire. May the thread of destiny be with you. And I guess for the love of God, cancel Disney Plus, right? I mean, just stick it to them, right? All right, everybody, take care. See you.